Welcome everyone. So we've had the big reveal for the new 0.4 patch along with the patch notes. And the big question for all of us Demon Form enjoyers is, well, did Demon Form survive the patch? The quick short answer is yes and no. Of the two approaches that were typical for handling Demon Form, Life Recoup using Sacrosanctum and Life Regen using the Undying Hate Tecrod unique jewel, the Life Recoup approach using Sacrosanctum has survived. The Life Regen approach using the Undying Hate unique jewel did not. For a more detailed overview, for those that are interested, starting with the Tecrod nerf, the Sacrifice of Blood keystone granted by the Undying Hate unique now grants 1 life regen per 16 life spent, which has doubled from 8 in the last 4 seconds, which is half of the previous 8. And then the secondary effect of increasing your life cost of skills, which was 50%, has been reduced to 20%. So this has gotten the classical GGG triple tap, and it's very hard to see this being viable anymore. To put it in perspective, this is roughly reducing the amount of life regen that you can get from this jewel to reducing it by about 75%. It's about a quarter of what it was before. And to put that in perspective, map modifiers, which would reduce your life recovery in 0.3, were already essentially killing this build. So this nerf is more than that. So it's hard to see it being viable as a form of handling Demon Form any longer. Moving on to Life Recoup, a quick refresher for those that weren't aware of how that worked. You would stack a large amount of Life Recoup both through your gear and your passive tree, and then you would use the Ascendancy node Pyromantic Pact to self-damage yourself and trigger that Life Recoup. Sacrosanctum, the unique chest, would then allow this Life Recoup to essentially double up by having it apply to ES as well. And the idea was to lower your mana as much as possible, so your Infernal Flame would be as low as possible, increase your cast speed and your mana costs as much as possible, so you'd be triggering Pyromantic Pact, the self-damage, as fast as you could, and layering that life recoup that you got from the self-damage on top of itself to such high levels where you would just get a ridiculous amount of life recovery and hence be able to get high number of Demon Form stacks. So of the main pillars, you could say, that revolved around this build, first there's a unique Sacrosanctum chest piece. This was actually in fact buffed. You can now get more life recoup on its prefix suffixes. Can't remember if it's a prefix or suffix. The Heroic Tragedy Olroth version unique jewel, which allowed you to remove the mana benefits of intelligence, has remained unchanged. Plus level to spells and mana costs in general have remained unchanged, so you can still ramp up your spells to cost as much as possible. The Perfect Essence of Installation, which allowed you to apply a large life recoup roll onto your belts, has remained unchanged. Cast speed in general doesn't seem to have changed in any way. And a very popular, optional but popular way of further increasing your self-damage and how quickly you did that, the Dueling Wand with the Spellslinger meta skill, has also remained unchanged. So the previous builds that I had presented in 0.3 revolving Life Recoup, which I'll link in the description, should still be very much viable and in fact should be extremely strong in 0.4. Not to dive into too much detail, but Comet got seriously buffed, and the cast on crit versions, if we could manage not suiciding with too much self-damage, could in fact even be much stronger and quite meta in 0.4. That is my prediction. That is all. Thank you for listening. As always, please subscribe and like if you found any of this information useful. It really does help the channel, and all the best.